It was a rare sun-drenched afternoon in London, the kind that gilded the Thames with silver and cast diamonds across the glass houses of Chelsea. Petals fluttered like butterflies in a soft breeze, the air humming with the scent of lilies, peonies, and freshly turned earth. The gates of the Royal Hospital Chelsea swung open to welcome the world's most illustrious horticultural spectacle, the Chelsea Flower Show. But this year, even among the blooms, all eyes were on two resplendent visitors, the King and Queen, radiant amidst a sea of flora, as if nature herself had crowned them in blossoms. King Alaric and Queen Evelyn, reigning sovereigns of a realm where tradition met the rhythms of the modern world, arrived not in stately formality, but with a warmth that seemed to awaken the very roots of the garden beds. Dressed in coordinated ensembles of soft jade and ivory, embroidered with vine-like motifs and threads that shimmered like dew, the royal couple looked as though they had emerged from the heart of the forest. The Queen's hat was a whimsical wonder, a wide-brimmed creation adorned with delicate silk irises and a sweeping veil that sparkled faintly in the sunlight. Her gloved hands gently grasped a parasol tipped with lilac blossoms, each step echoing grace. The King, tall and composed, sported a tailored suit in a sage-green hue, with a boutonniere fashioned from miniature orchids and rosemary sprigs, symbols of remembrance and wisdom. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. This year's theme, Gardens of the Crowned Earth, paid homage to the historical relationship between monarchy and nature, how kings and queens had, for centuries, shaped the green landscapes of their nations. And so it was only fitting that the monarchs themselves appeared like living symbols, walking among their subjects not on a red carpet, but a petaled path of glory. Their first stop was the sunken sanctuary, a garden carved into the earth with cascading terraces of medicinal herbs and heritage roses. Designed by a young, up-and-coming landscape artist, the sanctuary pulsed with intention. Bees buzzed softly over chamomile and lavender, while dragonflies skimmed the surface of a reflecting pool shaped like a crown. "Oh, Alaric," Queen Evelyn whispered, her voice almost drowned by the wind rustling through silver birches, "this place remembers what gardens are truly for. Healing." The King nodded, his fingers brushing a bloom of echinacea. "And peace. You can feel it in the silence." The couple's tour was more than ceremonial, it was reverent. Where others might have seen a photo opportunity, they lingered. At the Renaissance orchard, they tasted heirloom apples bred from 14th century varietals. At the nomadic pollinator pavilion, they watched butterflies land delicately on Queen Evelyn's sleeve, as if recognizing a kindred spirit. Cameras flashed occasionally, but there was a hush to the crowd, a kind of collective breath held in awe. For this was no stiff pageant, this was a dance between royalty and nature. At the Imperial Wilds garden, inspired by ancient Celtic meadows, a harpist played a tune written in honor of Queen Evelyn's coronation. The music, threaded with notes of longing and joy, seemed to call forth memory from the moss-covered stones. The Queen paused by a standing stone ringed with foxgloves and ivy, her eyes briefly misting. "Do you remember the orchard at Rosemere?" she asked softly, turning to her husband. "I do. You wore your hair down that day," the King replied. "We picked plums until sunset. Your hands were stained for days." She laughed, and it was a sound more golden than the light spilling through the oak branches above. That moment rippled outward like the wind through the tall grass, subtle but lasting. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Not far from the wilds stood the Kronos Courtyard, a time-themed display where each quadrant represented a season. Here, the King was entranced. In the winter corner, white hellebores rose from a bed of glittering quartz. In summer, sunflowers bowed over a bench made of reclaimed mahogany. An art installation of a clock slowly released flower petals with each passing minute. "Time blooms differently here," he said, almost to himself. "It reminds me how brief our seasons really are." "Then we must plan things worth returning to," Queen Evelyn replied. By midday, the royal couple reached the grand pavilion, a cathedral of color and scent. Beneath its vast white canopy bloomed the rarest flowers of the world, electric blue Himalayan poppies, near mythical jade vines from the Philippines, and even a night-blooming cereus coaxed into opening in daylight for the occasion. The queen knelt before a rare variegated peony, her fingers hovering above it as though in silent benediction. "She has the gardener's touch," murmured an onlooker. "Not just royalty, she's one of us." Indeed, it was well known that Queen Evelyn maintained her own gardens at Windsor Hollow. There, she cultivated bee-friendly lavender, raised monarch butterflies, and personally oversaw the pruning of her roses. Her hands, though manicured, bore the knowledge of soil. The final garden on the tour was the Sovereign Grove, created in their honor. It was a living tapestry of trees and shrubs native to every corner of the United Kingdom and its territories: birches from Scotland, wild apples from Wales, ferns from Northern Ireland, and hawthorn from the English countryside. At its heart stood two intertwined saplings, an oak and a silver linden, planted during the king and queen's coronation. Today, a third tree awaited planting, a dogwood, symbolizing strength and rebirth. Presented with a ceremonial spade, the king dug into the earth with quiet dignity. The queen followed, pressing the soil down gently over the roots. Together, they stood, hands lightly dusted with loam, eyes fixed on the tree reaching toward the sun. "Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. This," the king said, "is how legacies should grow." Their words echoed through the grove, not as royal decree, but as gentle truth. As the sun began its descent, bathing the showgrounds in amber light, the king and queen made their way to the royalty pavilion. Here, surrounded by topiary lions and floral arrangements in the shape of royal crests, they shared tea with guests, gardeners, botanists, schoolchildren, and soldiers alike. Queen Evelyn poured tea for a shy girl who had won the junior design contest. The girl offered her a small bouquet of cornflowers, tied with a ribbon the color of sky. "They grow in my back garden," the girl said. "I planted them with my nan." The queen accepted the bouquet as though it were a crown of gold. By the time they departed, dusk had folded itself over Chelsea. Lights twinkled among the trees, and night-blooming flowers opened their pale petals like whispered secrets. As the royal carriage disappeared behind wrought iron gates, a hush lingered like the last note of a song. But in the hearts of those who had seen them, walking not above, but among the people, listening not with obligation, but with awe, a seed had been planted. Not of pageantry, not of power, but of presence. Postscript: the bloom beyond the show. In the weeks that followed, the Sovereign Grove became a pilgrimage spot for visitors. The dogwood tree, barely a sapling during the show, seemed to flourish overnight. Letters arrived at Buckingham Greenhouse from children asking how to start pollinator gardens. Volunteers signed up in droves for local park beautification projects. And florists across the UK reported a surprising trend: bouquets inspired by the glowing queen, featuring soft lilacs, wild ferns, and velvet roses. The Chelsea Flower Show had always been a spectacle of nature, but this year it had been something more. A meeting place between bloom and crown. A royal moment in a garden that would outlast even kings. Subscribe the channel to get such videos.